I've been a naughty garlic. You see, when I made that poll about what you guys would like to see me do in my next video, I didn't really think this through. By popular opinion, we are going to make a huge summer outfit today. And we will do that. But my perfectionism wouldn't allow me doing that without updating the body textures first. So then I thought, okay, I'll just update the body textures first and then make that summer outfit. And yet here we are, with Godot open and freshly updated high-resolution textures. Because turns out when I recorded all my progress there and went through with the editing, there was so much nudity on screen every time that I couldn't comfortably upload that. So all my beautiful progress couldn't make it to the upload button. I'm sorry. But we will start at a point at which I think I won't get punished by the filters or annoying report button endies. So, lo and behold, we start our endeavors with a family-friendly bikini. Everything properly covered, as all things should be. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do today is adding more physics, because there are 3 things in life that absolutely need to jiggle or garlic isn't happy. The first one is jelly. I do love me some bubble jelly. And the second one is T&A. Obviously, that's why we're here. And the third place is actually frills. Why would you add frills to your character design if you don't properly animate them? That would be a disgrace. So yeah, we are going to make those lovely frills on our bikini top jiggle with physics. And obviously also the frills on the bikini bottom. So this is what the texture map currently looks like. The frills are still part of the bikini top, which is going to make it very hard to animate them separately from the rest of the bikini. So we have to crop them and put them to a different part of this texture to make it easier. So I cut out the frill parts and redrew some parts of this texture below them. And if I enable these layers, you can see that they are still in position. But obviously, if we want to remap these layers properly, we need to put them in a different part of this texture. So let's do that. And now we can hop back into Godot and put them on different polygon layers to animate them. Okay, this time we are going to have a little problem here because this part of this texture that already exists and the frill texture that we want to add needs to be glued together and never move separate from each other. So how can we achieve this? The problem is when I open up this part of the texture, I can see that there are lots of bones that have influence over these vertices here. Like this bone has influence over the bottom side, this one has influence over everything, this one has influence on the bottom side, this one has influence only at the very low parts, etc. This is very hard to recreate. And remember, we need to rig this exactly as the old texture, or otherwise the frills will move around and disconnect from the old texture. We don't want that. So what we're going to do is we copy this texture and we remember a landmark here. Like here is this shape here that we are going to remember. This is the bottom left part of the frills, and the bottom right part of the frills has this almost rectangular box. We remember this. We copy this duplicate. Let's call this frills. And let's go here into the UV editor again, move this to the new position. And now we remember our landmarks. This was supposed to be there. And now we remove all the polygons that we don't need. Okay, now we have reconnected all the polygons that see the part of this texture. And now we can check out if the rigging is correct. Obviously, I need to test this with an animation that has a high dynamic range. But I could imagine YouTube having a problem with me zooming in on these details and playing a very jiggly animation, so I'll do this off screen. Sorry, guys. Okay, I did my test off screen and everything was properly connected, just like I wanted to. And now we can continue by creating a new bone that has influence over the top vertices of this texture, so that we can move it around slightly different from the rest. Okay, so I created a new jiggle bone here that can perform an up or down movement, and I attached the top side vertices of the frills to this jiggle bone, only the top side, not the bottom side. And now if I switch between animations, you can see that the frills move different from the rest of the fabric, and I did the same for the other side. And now I can continue with the bottom part. So I added animations to the frills at the bikini bottom as well. And if I switch between animations, you can see how they are slightly jiggling around now. And this is what we wanted. And now we can move on to the next clothing part. So, yeah, poor Kana doesn't need to be cold anymore. We will cover her up properly now. Let's go! So I made a screenshot of my model and imported it into GIMP, sketched some rough outlines for a knotted t-shirt, and then fed it into Stable Diffusion to render. And this is the result. And we are going to wig this t-shirt on the character next. Let's go! Obviously, first step, put it into the sprite sheet. So after some cropping, this is the result. And if you're wondering why I wanted to create a white t-shirt again over already white clothes underneath, then this is because white textures can easily be retinted. And this allows me to basically test out colors as I see fit. So it's always a good strategy to start with white textures and then add the coloring retroactively. Unfortunately, among our existing polygons that we have on this model, there is nothing that resembles the outlines and the overall shape of the newly added clothing. So we have to start from scratch and create a completely new polygon. So let's start with fresh polygon. And now we can start rigging. So let's go into the UV editor. And let's create some points. Okay, so this is the first setup I came up with. I can always add more vertices at a later point, but this is a neat starting point. I won't explain in detail why I set it up like this. Just in general, you want to follow the edges of like visible shadows in your textures with vertices so that you can basically create polygons that follow these shapes. Whenever you can, try to put vertices at outlines, around shadows, etc. and keep everything that is mostly just one empty area as one empty area. This makes deforming a lot easier. Down here we needed a lot more because we want to move this bow tie separately from the rest. So I needed a line here that I can connect so that I can basically separate this part entirely from this upper part. I am done with the triangles and now we can add the bones. But first we need to put the texture in the right position, and I applied some rescaling and rotation, put it in this place, and we immediately see that we need to apply some fine-tuning here and there for this texture. Okay, so I applied these changes to the texture and you can now see that it's a much better fit. So we can start rigging the bones now. Let's go! Alright, so I painted the weights as I think it should be decent already. Let's test this out real quick and see how well it follows the textures underneath. So let's play some animations. And this already looks pretty well. Okay, for slow animations, it works already pretty nice. I don't like what's going on with the tie down here. We need to fix that. But it seems to follow the movement of the chest pretty closely. So this is already very good. There is some deformation happening up here that we need to fix. And I don't like how the bottom part of the shirt follows the chest too much, and it should be more static and more connected to the skin here. On this part, there's some clipping happening. We need to fix that. Okay, so yeah, we got some data. Let's hop back in and try to fix these problems. Took me quite a while, but I managed to adjust the rigging to my liking. And let's go back to our fully opaque shirt and do a final check on a few different animations. And it looks very clean now. So I think we can move on here. All right, let's keep it this way. But before we're done here, there are two more things we need to do. First, I want, obviously, this whole thing to throw a shadow. So we need a shadow here. And also potentially a shadow here on the inside. And the second thing I want to do is adding some gravity physics to these ends of the bow tie. So, almost done. I added the shadows, I added the physics, and yeah. I think this is already looking pretty good. And we can move on to the final step, at least for this episode, which is adding some transparency to the shirt, but only a few touch-ups. I don't want the whole thing to become transparent like we had before, so I do this last change in GIMP. So I did a few eraser brush strokes here, just on the top side where the fabric is supposed to lie flat on the skin. And on the folds, you don't see this transparency, so this part is not transparent. And we go back to Godot and check it out how it looks like in the app now. And yes, this looks very satisfying. There is this tiny bit of transparency here. You can, if you look very closely, see the shapes, but it's very subtle, which is what I like. And on the bottom side, there's no transparency. Yeah, this looks really good, and I'm very happy with the result. Great! That's it for this video. I'm going to make a second part soon, in which we will add a cute skirt and maybe a sun hat or some accessories. I don't know yet. I hope you will tune in again, and, well, see you next time. Bye-bye.